In this video, I want to teach you the absolute best way for how to deal with unconscious people while you're on the spiritual path. Now, this was a huge obstacle for me when I first began my spiritual journey. I was suffering from depression. I was addicted to video games, addicted to porn, addicted to smoking weed, and this made me feel very depressed. So when I stumbled upon the spiritual path, this was like a second wind for me. This was like the most important thing I'd ever found in my entire life, and I went full steam ahead with my meditation practice and with all of these personal development techniques. But one of the first obstacles I ran into that I started to notice is that my friends and my family were not on the same wavelength that I was, and they weren't interested in personal development or changing their unconscious habits and behaviors and patterns of thinking. And this made me very sad because as a compassionate human being, I feel how much I was suffering when I was hopelessly addicted to video games and weed and porn, and I wanted to help my friends with that problem as well. I got into so many arguments with my family trying to get them to do some of these spiritual exercises that they just really weren't interested in doing. And this made me really sad, and this was a serious problem for me because it gets very lonely when you're the only person who sees a higher purpose in life, when everyone else is just chasing pleasure, going through the motions of life, and you're the only one who is trying to self-actualize. It gets very lonely. So when I was about 16 years old, I found a meditation teacher who was the most amazing person that I've ever met in my entire life. This man lived in downtown Toronto, and he ran a Buddhist Vipassana meditation center. And I went to his center for a retreat. And after that retreat, I actually was seeing him every single week, and I would actually take the subway downtown just to talk to him for like 15 minutes so that he can help me with my meditation practice. And during this time, I was about 16 years old, and I was really struggling with this problem of dealing with unconscious people. So I asked him, I said, hey, how do I help my mom and dad awaken? How do I help my friends awaken to the spiritual path? What do I do? Because I've tried arguing with them, I've tried debating them, I've tried ignoring them and just letting them do their thing. And both of those seem to not work. So what's the best way for me to awaken unconscious people? And I'll never forget, my teacher told me this. He said that his teacher told him this. And it's just 4 words. The way to deal with unconscious people is you be a diamond. And what that means is that you be the best version of yourself. A diamond is flawless. A diamond is a perfect jewel. It's hard. It can't be perturbed. It can't be destroyed. It can't be cut by anything that isn't also a diamond. So he said to me, you be a diamond, which means you focus on yourself. Don't worry about what your mom and dad are doing. Don't worry about your brother and sister. Don't worry about what your friends are doing, what your society is doing. Just focus on yourself. You be a diamond. And when you are a diamond, you shine your own light of consciousness, and just through your embodiment, are you able to have a transformative effect on other people's minds. You're not going to change other people by debating and arguing with them. Trust me, I've tried. I've tried a lot. people don't want to be scolded for not meditating or for not eating healthy. It doesn't make them feel good. It makes them defensive, makes them close down. And then how do you expect to share your wisdom with them if they're closed down and defensive? So he said the best thing to do is just to focus on how you are. You can't change other people, but you can change yourself. Focus on your own meditation practice. Meditate for an hour every day. Focus on your own diet, on your own exercise. Focus on your own education. And then your embodiment will start to rub off on other people. So I trusted my teacher. I said, okay, I'm going to stop fighting with my parents. I'm going to stop fighting with my friends. I'm just going to be the best version of myself. And that's what I did. So instead of arguing with other people about how they should meditate, instead I just focused on my own meditation. I was meditating for an hour to 2 hours every single day when I first began the path. And over time, my family started to notice that. Say, hey, why is Adam late for dinner? Oh, he's meditating. Hey, Adam, why do you meditate every single day? What does it do for you? And only when the person is now curious about your behavior, you've been meditating, now they're curious. Hey, Adam, what does meditation do for you? Now that they're actually asking you, they're open to receive advice. So I say, yeah, meditation helps me be more aware of my thoughts. It helps me be more aware of my habits, of my body. It helps me calm down, helps me control my anger, my stress, etc. So beginners, noobs, always try and convert other people by scolding them and talking at them and making them feel bad for being unconscious. Kind of like when people first go vegan for the first time, it's like they never shut up about it. When I first went vegan, this wasn't a problem for me, but I have friends who go vegan and they just always talk about how being vegan is the best diet and how everyone who eats meat is somehow not as cool as them. And these people are really annoying. So that's what the beginner tries to do. They try to convert everyone, but the master, if you've ever interacted face to face with a spiritual master who's been practicing meditation very seriously for 30 or 40 years, just by being in their presence, you already feel inspired to become the best version of yourself. They don't have to preach to you. They don't have to tell you how good meditation is. They don't have to sign you up for their program. They don't have to convince you. Just by you being in their presence, you start to see how steady their eye contact is. You see how grounded their energy is, how calm they are. You see how they deal with stressful situations with mastery. Just by getting the master's energy, you're already inspired to become the best version of yourself. They don't need to talk to you about it. It's just an energy transmission. It's natural. Because they are focusing on their own energy. They've put all the time and energy in themselves to make sure that they are a diamond. And now people come, a lot of masters who teach in retreat centers, people come from far and wide just to talk to them, just to sit near them, just to see them. And these masters inspire people to be the best version of themselves. Now, I want to share with you what I think is probably one of my favorite quotes of all time. And it's extremely beautiful, from the spiritual master Ramana Maharshi, who is one of my favorite spiritual teachers. He really, really embodied the message that I'm trying to share with you here in this video. For many years, Ramana Maharshi wouldn't even talk. He would literally just sit in his monastery in India. He would just sit there, and followers would come from far and wide. People would travel across countries just to come sit in Ramana Maharshi's presence. And he wouldn't even talk. So it's not like he was teaching them. It's not like he was giving some kind of spiritual discourse. He would literally just sit there and be. And many people report that just by being in his presence, they could feel his love. They could feel his serenity. They could feel his calmness. And many people devoted their entire lives. They abandoned their families and their jobs just to be Ramana Maharshi's disciple, just to sit near him and absorb his energy, because that's how powerful and transformative it was, without him ever having to talk or say anything. But sometimes he did talk, and when he did talk, this was the kind of stuff that he said. This is a quote where Ramana Maharshi answers a questioner. The questioner asks him how to deal with unconscious people, and this is what Ramana Maharshi has to say about that. The questioner asks, "Does my realization help others?" Ramana says, "Yes, and it is the best help that you can possibly render to others. Those who have discovered great truths have done so in the still depths of the self. But there really are no others to be helped. For the realized being sees only the self, just as the goldsmith sees only the gold while valuing it in various jewels made of gold. When you identify yourself with the body, name and form are there. But when you transcend body consciousness, the others also disappear. The realized one does not see the world as different from himself." The questioner says, "But would it not be better if the saints mix with the others?" Ramana says, "There are no others to mix with. The self is the only reality." The questioner says, "But should I not try to help the suffering of the world?" Ramana says, "The power that created you has created the world as well. If it can take care of you, it can similarly take care of the world also. If God has created the world, it is His business to look after it, not yours." The questioner says, "But is it not our duty to be patriots?" Ramana says, "Your duty is to be, not to be this or that. I am that I am sums up the whole truth. The method is summarized in be still." And what does stillness mean? It means destroy yourself, because every name and form is the cause of trouble. I is the self. I am this is the ego. So let me just clarify. When Ramana says I, what he means is he means the I that is aware of the I. So when you say I am Adam or I am John, that's not what you are. He's talking about the I that is aware of the I, the awareness, I. When the I is kept up as the I only, it is the self. When it flies off at a tangent and says, I am this or that, I am such and such, it is the ego. The questioner says, Who then is God? Ramana says, the self is God. I am is God. If God is apart from the self, he must be a selfless God, which is absurd. All that is required to realize the self is to be still. What can be easier than that? Hence, the highest realization, Atma Vidya, is the easiest to attain. Wow. An extremely powerful quote. One of my favorites of all time. Ramana Maharshi says very clearly that it is your duty to be, not to be this or that. So you don't have to worry about being a savior, being a bodhisattva, someone who helps the world, who rids the world of suffering. You don't have to do that. All you have to do to help the world is to be. And he doesn't mean to be to sit on the couch and play video games and eat Cheetos. He means to be your true nature, to be the self, the awareness, the true nature of reality. To be God. He said God is the same as the self. They're the same thing. So just by being, just by embodiment, you can help to save the entire world. Because you realize in your true state, in your state of awakening, when you're being a diamond, you realize that there actually is no other people. There are no other people to awaken. There's only me. Just like in a dream, imagine spending so much time and energy in your dream trying to wake up the other characters. Meanwhile, in truth, you're the one who's dreaming. So, the best way to awaken unconscious people is to first and foremost awaken yourself. Once you awaken yourself, the world awakens with you. All right. Now, that being said, a lot of people will say, okay, Adam, so what if every single person, 8 billion people, just sat on their ass like Ramana Maharshi and did nothing? Is that the kind of world you want? You're telling me I don't have to do anything at all to help other people? What about giving to charity? I shouldn't do that? What about helping an old lady cross the street? What about giving other people advice? I don't have to do any of those things? Is that what you're saying? Well, no, I'm not saying that. I think there's a very delicate balance between being and doing. And that's why I actually wanted to give you some very practical tips for you to actually, if you're interested in awakening other human beings and you actually want to help raise other people's consciousness, then you can use these tips to do that practically. Okay, because many people might think, oh, Ramana Maharshi just says just to be and to do nothing. That's not very practical. I'm not going to go sit in a cave for the rest of my life. So, although being is the main component and the most important thing, because awakening others isn't about what you tell them, it's about your energy. That being said, here are some practical tips that you can actually use to awaken other people. So the main tip is drop the need to awaken other people. Just focus on yourself. Whenever you find yourself trying to awaken other people, notice that really what that is you aren't awake enough to realize that there is no such thing as other people to awaken. There's only you. So whenever you try and awaken other people, turn that back around on yourself and realize that really what I need is to do more work on myself. Because when you master your own consciousness, as you raise your consciousness, you'll start to see the perfection in unconscious people. So you'll start to see the genius of God's design. Many people, they don't understand, why is there war? Why is there rape? Why is there crime and murder? Why would God invent all of these bad things? If God loves us, why is there war? Well, as you raise your consciousness, you'll start to see very clearly the perfection in God's design. And that, in fact, you don't need to change the world. You just need to change how you see the world. You need to see the perfection in the world as it is right now. That is how you get to heaven. Heaven is not reached by getting rid of all the bad people, by getting rid of all of the unconscious people, all of the rapists, all of the murderers, throwing them all in jail, all of the greedy capitalists, putting them in jail. And then after we do that, then we'll have heaven. But until then, we'll have hell. That's not how it works. Heaven is a state of mind. When you are conscious enough to realize that every single moment is heaven, that reality, just as it is right now, with all the wars, with all the genocide and all of the racism and all the things you hate, even those things are part of heaven. Only then will you be able to actually reach heaven, which is not a place that you go to after you die with the pearly gates and the clouds, but heaven is a state of consciousness. Heaven is the realization that you are God and the ability to see the genius in God's design. So when you interact with another human being who, let's say, is addicted to cocaine and you want to get them to stop, you say, oh, this person's so unconscious, they're addicted to cocaine. I'm not going to listen to this person. This person needs my help. I'm going to teach them how to meditate. I'm going to teach them how to exercise. See, the best way to actually help that person is to treat them with the highest respect, as if you're speaking to God himself. Speak to that person as if you're interacting with God herself. Realize that that person is the most enlightened being on the planet. That cocaine addict that you're talking to is God. And what would happen if you treated them as such? Because you are God as well, so they're not better than you. They are equal to you. Treat them with respect, with dignity. Listen to what they have to say. Sympathize with them. Make eye contact. Smile. Laugh at their jokes. Genuinely care about them. And if you do that, you might discover that by the end of that conversation, that person will have a lot more respect for you. You don't even have to mention meditation. You don't have to even talk about spirituality or any of this stuff. All you have to do is treat them with respect and dignity. And you will see that by the end of that conversation, that person will be asking you questions. Hey, man, I know I have this problem. Can you give me some advice for how to quit? And then when you give them advice, they'll actually listen to you and they'll actually take your advice to heart because they respect you as much as you respect them. How do you expect to awaken someone else? How do you expect to get them to change their ways if you're accusing them as if there's something wrong with them? There's nothing wrong with another person for eating meat or for not practicing meditation or for getting drunk every day. There's nothing wrong with them. They are a perfect expression of God. And as you start to practically learn, this is the next tip here, to actually learn and study metaphysics, psychology, and spirituality, actually learn the mechanisms of why is this person the way that they are. The only way that you can be triggered by another person's unconsciousness is if you aren't conscious enough yourself to understand the psychological mechanisms that are causing them to act the way that they do. So if someone yells at you for crossing the street at the wrong time or whatever, and they yell at you, normally you would get triggered. So, oh wow, that person is so unconscious. If only he was as spiritual as me. That angry person on the street needs to meditate more. How dare he yell at me? It's projection. You're projecting your unconsciousness onto them. If you really understood how the entire universe works by raising your own consciousness, by studying the right material, by reading books, many of which I recommend here on this channel, then you'll actually start to understand their psychological mechanisms that are causing them to be angry at you. One of the best ways to raise your consciousness is to understand intellectually how unconsciousness works. So if you want to be the best version of yourself, you want to raise your consciousness, you need to understand consciousness and unconsciousness, because really what consciousness is eliminating all of the areas in your life where there's darkness, shining the light on all of the areas of your life that you're not aware of, your bad habits, your negative thoughts, your projections and hatred of other people. Understand your own psychology very deeply through contemplation and through reading, and then you'll find it a lot easier to help awaken other people. And also, a great place to start doing this is by learning about spiral dynamics, which is a developmental psychology model which talks about the evolution of the human mind from an unconscious place through all of the various stages to an enlightened state. So spiral dynamics talks about the psychological development of human value systems as human beings grow and develop. So you can't really help anyone unless you understand where they're at. Spiral dynamics helps you to do that. I have an introductory video on spiral dynamics. I'll link it up here, and I'm actually going to be continuing the series, so stay tuned for that. It's an extremely powerful model for helping to awaken other people because it allows you to meet people where they're at. So this phenomenon of being triggered by other people's unconsciousness, this is really coming from spiral dynamics stage green that has just evolved out of stage orange. So stage orange is where the Western society is at today, very materialistic, pleasure-seeking, capitalistic, all about material success and chasing money and fame. And most spiritual people start to see the limitation of that, and then we evolve into the next stage, which is stage green, which is now about peace and love and connecting with other people and exploring your own consciousness and psychedelics. That's where most of us are at if we're trying to awaken other people by demonizing them. So for example, the vegan who just goes vegan for the first time and is trying to preach to everyone how the greedy capitalistic system is murdering cows and is slaughtering them and factory farming is the devil. I agree A lot of that stuff is, factory farming is terrible and we need to do something about it. But this mindset of trying to convert everyone to your belief system, this is a very stage green thing to do. And the only way you can actually help those stage orange people or those stage blue people who are still stuck in religion and Christianity and the laws and very strict about everything, if you want to help these people raise their consciousness, like your parents or your grandparents, you need to meet them where they're at. So if you're trying to awaken your dad, and your dad is just interested in business and money, you can't talk to him, hey dad, let me teach you about chakras and energy work and Reiki healing. Let me teach you about how to connect with your spirit guides. Your dad doesn't want to hear about that. He's not in stage green. He's in stage orange. So you need to actually go down to his level, up, down, it's all relative, but you need to go into his paradigm and you need to speak to him and say, hey dad, listen, if you want your business to do better, if you actually want to make a lot of money, one thing that I found is that if you practice meditation for 10 minutes a day, it actually helps you think a lot clearer. If you eat healthier, you'll actually be more productive. You'll get more work done and you'll end up making more money and you'll be more successful. And your dad will say, hey man, why didn't you tell me sooner? Of course, sure, let me try some meditation. If it's going to help me make more money, sure. So you need to speak to the people where they're at. And the only way to understand where they're at is to understand their psychology better than they do, which is what spiral dynamics helps with. So stage green doesn't have the ability to go to different levels. Stage green thinks everyone else just needs to be more woke and more conscious, then everything will be okay. If everyone believed in spirit guides and energy and chakras and crystals, then the world would live in peace and love. But that's not how it actually works. What we really need is people to move beyond stage green into the next stage, which is stage yellow, which is a tier 2 stage, which actually now starts to have intellectual understanding of the intelligent design of the human psychology. So spiral dynamics is a stage yellow model. So in order to have a healthy society, we can't just have everyone at stage green. What we need is to actually create a system, a social system that allows each stage to live in harmony and to capitalize on its strengths and minimize its weaknesses. Instead, what we have now, which is all green, orange, and blue are all just fighting with each other. So instead of fighting and squabbling, we need to actually create a system that allows everyone to live in harmony. And that's complicated. The only way to do that is with intellectual understanding, reading hundreds of books, understanding your own psychology and that of others as well. So that's a very practical tip for you guys. Start learning about spiral dynamics. And the last practical tip I'll give you is not to waste all of your energy trying to awaken one person. Don't waste all your energy debating and fighting with your parents if they're not interested in spirituality or they're not open to the idea of using psychedelics. Don't waste all your time and energy worrying about that. Instead, what you should do is design a life purpose for yourself. Get more clear about what is your direction in life. What kind of impact do you want to have in the world? How are you going to make that impact? What kind of practical plan can you put into place so that you can actually move in that direction so that in 10 years from now, you can actually make a giant impact on the world? So instead of wasting your time and energy awakening your mom, who's not even open to it anyways, instead use all of that time and energy and put it into your craft. Put that into your art, into your life purpose. How are you going to share your higher consciousness with the world? And in 5-10 years, if you have a practical plan, then you'll start to see that instead of helping 1 or 2 people, your energy is a lot better used helping thousands of people. So just as a practical example, there's sometimes people in my comment section who will argue with me about my ideas. And that's all right. I like discussing with people, but a lot of the energy I use arguing with people in the comments would be a lot better used if I just made another video which might get 1,000 views. So I could help 1,000 people instead of arguing with this one person. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to direct and harness our energy into a clear direction. And if you want some help learning how to create that clarity and direction in your own life, then that's what I do professionally. I'm a life coach, and you can hop on a free coaching call with me. You just reach out to me on Instagram and we can have a hour-long talk where I'll just speak to you for over an hour and I'll help you really dig deep into the core of your heart to discover what it is you're truly passionate about. We'll discuss ways that you can practically have a huge impact on the world and make money from it at the same time. And then also I'll help you create a practical step-by-step plan that will help you move there every single day. So I'm talking about practical things like daily habits, what to do in the morning, how to structure your day. So the really basic practical things I can help you with on this free call, no charge at all. So reach out to me. The reason why I do these free coaching calls is because it helps people really get a taste of the raw power of having a life coach. I've had multiple life coaches in my life and it's freaking amazing. It's changed my entire life. I've spent thousands of dollars on life coaches because it is it's something that can't be explained. It's so amazing that you need to experience it for yourself firsthand to have another person help guide you towards more direction and more clarity in your life, and also to keep you accountable for actually taking action on the practical steps. All right, so if that sounds cool to you, reach out to me on Instagram. Otherwise, this video is all done, so leave it a like if you liked it. Leave me a comment. Tell me, what you liked, what you didn't like. It helps me with the YouTube algorithm, helps this content spread to more people. Subscribe for more content. It really helps the channel out. I'm releasing content weekly like this that's practically helping you self-actualize as a human being, helping you become the best version of yourself. I make content about spirituality, kind of like this video, and I also make more life coaching style of practical content where I help you make like tangible plans for how to achieve your vision in your life and how to make a vision in the first place. So if that sounds cool, check out my video getting crystal clear about what it is you actually want in your life. That's a very powerful video. And otherwise, stay tuned and I'll see you in the next one.